and you would connect that here. I've still got 2 spare. How about a backup codec, maybe? Either one of mine or somebody else's. I don't mind, but think about it. So anything that will run off a 12-volt DC supply, and that's pretty much all of my codecs, all my codecs, every single ADSL modem I've ever seen, you can actually power from the codec. And if the AC fails, it will flip over to the battery. Now that battery is just a standard, ordinary lead-acid battery. We're doing nothing clever. This isn't an intelligent site UPS. It may be that the intelligent site UPS is the bit that's fallen over. It may be that that's the bit that's failed. And if you are providing the link to a customer, you don't want to be dependent on someone else's UPS. And then they get into an argument with whoever put the UPS in that it let you down the day you needed it. So now you've battery backed up the codec and the ADSL modems, and maybe even a backup codec, and you've still got a spare port. So this is what I mean about keeping the link alive. So an ADSL modem can freeze or crash. A link could go down, and you've still got the other link. You could lose power, and you've still got the codec up and the other links. And while you've lost power, you will get an alarm from the unit, and you can investigate whether it's critical or not critical. It's a completely unique concept. No one else is offering this in the market. So if you remember that I started out with a codec that I said, yep, it's got all the features a modern codec has. It's compatible with APT. I could make out a very nice case for it just as a codec on its own. But this puts it into a different territory. And all along, of course, your audio is maintained. The desktop variation is the C211DT. This is just the codec on its own. It's a half-U rack. It's obviously going to be cheaper. You can have a rack mount kit for it if you want. We do a rack mount kit that holds 2 side by side. It's got dual power supplies. Even the entry-level model, it's got 2 power supply inputs. They're dual DC. It doesn't have the DC distribution or the battery backup, but it could be the backup codec powered off one of those DC outputs from the big unit. It's got ACBU, albeit on a 9-pin connector instead of the XLRs, because it just isn't the space. And all the codec features are the same as its big brother. Incidentally, it's built for Broadcom in the Sonifex factory. So you might think there's a family resemblance to a Sonifex product there. It's not a coincidence. It's controlled by the internet, by a web GUI. So again, if your link goes down, you wouldn't be able to control the darn thing, even if you wanted to. So the same web GUI is used to control either the C211 or the C211MP. It's very, very simple. It's a connection wizard to get you up and started. If anybody wants to come and have a look, I can show them some of the screenshots. There's a couple there for you, but it's really not complicated. This quick start guide comes out of the box to help you get your link up as quick as possible initially. And next, SureStream. This is a key to the audio stability. It's all very well if the link is up, but what about packet loss? What about jitter on the link? What about just momentary audio dropouts? I'm not talking about critical failures. I'm just talking about IP links can sometimes not be what they're cracked up to be. Anybody who's seen a YouTube video just freeze in front of them will know that that can happen. So I mentioned about using 2 networks in a main and a backup configuration. So that shows that there. You've got the 2 ports that are going through different service providers. One is your main, and one is your backup. If the main fails, the unit will switch over to your backup. Now, typically speaking, I don't know if you've ever actually tried it with any devices that are out there. Because IP is asynchronous, you can't guarantee the timing of delivery of the packets across an IP network. You would get a big, maybe even 20, 30-second gap when it switches from one to the other conventionally. But with SureStream, the switching is instant. It's at packet level, and it switches instantly from one to the other. So that really is the first thing that SureStream can give you. It can give you an instant switchover without a service interruption from main to backup. But it goes further than that. If you have a look at this diagram, you'll see the yellow and the orange are representing 2 different service providers. And what I've got on the yellow is a bursty bit of packet loss. What I mean by that is a whole load of packets have disappeared. and they're all next to each other. Big chunk has gone. And what I've got on the orange network is a bit of random packet loss. The odd one's gone every now and again. Now, neither of those, presume that the burst of packet loss was just, I don't know, half a second, neither of those would be worth triggering a failover for. You wouldn't switch over a whole network just because you got a bit of random packet loss. You wouldn't switch over a whole network just because you've lost half a second of audio. But your listeners won't like it, and they may well tune to another radio station. So you don't want that to happen. So what SureStream does is packet by packet, it picks from either network. All it needs is one example, one perfect example of each packet. It doesn't care whether it comes from network A or network B, as long as it finds it. It will be able to create one perfect stream within the unit for decoding. So we call it hitless. By hitless, we mean there's no penalty to the technology. It doesn't add delay. It doesn't cause you any problems. You don't have to worry about it. It just operates in the background. It's hitless packet level switching. That is really what SureStream is about. Now, you can imagine, I don't know, let's say that the network is particularly bad one day, and even with SureStream, you're struggling to get a good link across. It actually can operate in a second dimension without getting too Star Trek-y about it. You can actually repeat the stream and send multiple streams with slightly different timing on the same port. So even if you only had one port running, maybe the other one is out, somebody's put a digger through the ground, cut through the cable, maybe it's not installed yet, you're waiting for the service provider to put it in. In the meantime, you're only working on one link. SureStream still has a benefit because you can resend that sequence of packets with slightly different packet timing so that when there's some packet loss, you haven't lost all the packets that would have been in there, because some may have been sent early on the same link, some may have been sent late on the same link, and they are still recoverable. So it is very clever. It works across two links, and it works on one link, and it will do both of those at the same time. It was developed by APT. We make no secret of the fact, but when you combine that with the power, the battery backup, the fact that we're battery backing up the unit in case of power failure, and that when we do that, we're also battery backing up the link, the ADSL modems, it's a very powerful solution. Just going back to, the back panel of the unit. If you remember the 4 DC outputs, we actually asked one of our customers in the UK to keep a log for us of what actually specifically was the required step to recover the service when they did have an outage on their old system before we launched this technology. And by far, the most common cause of outages was something as minor as the modem locking up, okay? So, I mean, today, for example, we're using a 3G modem here so that us guys have internet. We've had to reboot it a couple of times. I bet all of you have had that experience. You've had to go to your modem and reboot it. So say that one of the two modems locks up. I need to go back a little bit more. Actually, I'm going to do this the hard way, or the easier way. What I want to show you is this one here. Right. So if one of the two modems freezes, what will happen? No packets will come through that modem. The unit will detect that. It will get all the packets it needs, if it at all possibly can, off the other port. So that's fine. You've got that redundancy, the second port. But what it can actually also do is automatically cut the power and reinstigate the power to the modem that reboots. You can automatically reboot a frozen modem. So you start thinking about it. We've got SureStream thanks to APT, so we can actually build a perfect stream from two slightly imperfect links. We've got battery backup. We can reboot a frozen modem. We're not only backing up the codec, but we're backing up the modems. We can also power a backup codec. I won't say what could possibly go wrong, but what you can see is we are dramatically reducing the number of instances where you may lose your link. It's a very, very interesting concept. Any questions? No? Oh, you lot are a pleasure to talk to. Right, well, I think I finished. Yes. Okay. So Sonifex can take care of all your studio needs. Broadcom can take care of your studio to transmitter linking requirements. I'd now like to talk to you about BW Broadcast. So, it's a British company. It's been going more than 10 years. The headquarters are in Croydon, which is south of London. It's very close to London's Gatwick Airport, not too far from Heathrow. And what we're trying to do is have products and have a company attitude in the building, in the business, which is really emphasizing product quality, service, and support. Especially in America, and well, America really more than anywhere, there's a really big low-power FM market. By low-power FM, typically I mean under 300 watts. So this is not necessarily community radio, because that'll be 5 watt, 50 watt. These are often commercially operating. But in that market, these products are really considered a standard. And we've now got a range that goes up to 1.5 kilowatt now, and will soon go up to 3 kilowatts. We're not treading on Elenos's toes. Elenos is a very fine company with some nice transmitters. In fact, we sell them sometimes. Because we're not in the high power market, if somebody needs a 5 kilowatt or a 10 kilowatt or 3 kilowatt transmitter, we sometimes offer Elenos. So I'm not trying to tread on their toes. I'm just trying to explain to you that our philosophy, where it sits, and what we're trying to do. So we work very hard on the reliability of the product. You'll see that everybody will say that, but there are some specific things that we have done, especially with our transmitters, which you will understand will have a real impact on reliability. So that, you'll see, we call it intelligence of design. What can you do in the design stage, which is going to really improve the reliability prospects of this piece of equipment? What can you do in quality control before you ship the product? And what component choices under the lid are going to affect the quality of the end result? These are the things that matter to BW Broadcast. Our managing director, Scott, he's almost obsessed with these sorts of things. We've won a lot of awards, especially for the receiver, the rebroadcasting receiver, and for the STL, and also for the version 2 transmitters. Typically, we find that, you know, as I said, we're not in the high power market. We're not looking at the big commercial operators. So who's using our products? Sports stadia, drive-in movie theaters, World Cups, Olympics, those sorts of events which require a local coverage, maybe for a short period of time. We sell a lot into the government and military areas, and we also OEM. We supply equipment unbranded to some of our partners, including my former employer, Worldcast Systems. Very big user list. You can see that on our website. And in Asia, we've got sales around India, large number of low-power transmitters in India, Cambodia, Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore. So I came into the company to develop the business in Asia, but already there's a nice user base. So although there's no units yet in Sri Lanka, it's not an American-only or a British-only success story. Well, got Laos and Malaysia there too. I forgot about Malaysia. So what do we do? Well, if you think of what I've been talking about, an end-to-end walk through the signal path. We've got the studio, we've got you to the transmitter. What are the things you need at the transmitter site? Audio processor. We've got models for AM broadcasting and FM broadcasting and for digital. We've got 4-band processing and 6-band processing. And unique in the market, we have a 6-band processor with a built-in RMS leveler. It's the Ariane leveler. Until about a year or so ago, you would buy that as a distinct and separate product, and it's sold for $2,500. We have that built into the audio processor. Our processors are, except for the base model, they're all dual path, so you can actually, from the one unit, you can have an output for streaming or an output for a digital radio emission, as well as an output for AM or FM. And again, quite unique. With these processors, you don't necessarily need to buy a dedicated silence detector. Much so, I'd love to sell you a Sonifex silence detector. There are situations where what's on board the processor is enough. It will automatically switch on silence from MPX to analog or MPX to digital input. So although it doesn't have a secondary source, if you have a secondary source, a compact flash player or an MP3 player or CD player at the site, this will do the silence detecting and source switching for you. So to have that on board the processor is very attractive. We also do just stereo encoders. We actually sell a lot of these to some of our, if you like, competitors, other transmitter manufacturers who want a lab quality stereo generator to test their transmitters with. RDS encoders. I've noticed from being in a few cars this week that there's RDS. Over here you get station ID. Sometimes you just want a basic RDS. You just want to see the station name on your car display, that's it. But other times you want scrolling RDS. In Malaysia, they use scrolling RDS to carry advertising messages. So you can actually monetize RDS. If you want to know how to do it, I can put you in touch with the broadcaster in Malaysia who's doing it. But for that, you need a more sophisticated RDS encoder, which would be our RDS3 product. Receivers. I'm not talking about receivers here for spectral analysis, which is where the Diva product comes in. This is for rebroadcasting. So be it a valley where the signal isn't being reached from the main transmitter, or a tunnel that's been built, and you need to get an FM signal into the tunnel. So you need to receive and rebroadcast. So quite often the signal that you're picking up is not very clean. It's a long way away, the signal has got quite weak, and you're going to pick it up and apply processing to it to clean it up before rebroadcasting. So our rebroadcasting receiver, no doubt about it, just go on a few forums, you'll find that it's probably the best in the world. You go on a few broadcasting forums and people are saying how it's basically saved them because they have been failing to deliver their content to certain communities, maybe, as I said, a small town or small village in a valley. The advertisers are upset because they're hearing that there's no coverage there. A rebroadcast receiver, again, helps ensure that your signal is getting to those communities. Studio to transmitter links. Now here I'm not talking about a codec, I'm talking about an RF link. So we can apply the same transmission technology that we have, the version 2 transmission technology. We can run it at 800 megahertz, 850 megahertz, 900 megahertz. We've got this world-class receiver with a DSP sort of audio reconstruction and cleanup. It's a perfect combination for an RF link. And of course, transmitters, which I've already mentioned. So what are we doing with transmitters that's different? They're self-contained, all-in-one unit. The 1U transmitter goes to 50 watts. The 2U transmitter goes to 1.5 kilowatts. But these include exciter, amplifier, audio processor, telemetry, everything. There's actually no option list. Everything is included in the base price. So the idea is that they come out the box, you plug them in, you turn them on, they've got a built-in audio processor, remember that, so you can dial up an audio processor profile for pop music or classic or speech or whatever the nature of your station is, and you're on air with fantastic sound in a minimum amount of time. Reliability I talked about a lot. Now you can see in that picture, the slide-in power supplies, some of the models 300 watts and upwards. They have dual power supply options. We've also got a technology called Gold Clamp. And what Gold Clamp allows you to do is, in the event of a lightning strike or something has taken out one of your MOSFET devices, you just take off the lid, remove a few screws, and the whole MOSFET device pulls out. You do not need to desolder it. So this is designed to be really easy to maintain and quick to repair in the field. Very, very unlikely would that unit have to come back for a workshop repair. And anybody who's ever replaced a MOSFET device in a high power amplifier will know that normally it's quite a pig to do. You have to use a super hot soldering iron because it's attached to a heat sink, so the heat sink will always take away